can start at almost any point on the 7 reels that make up the Untried series of videos and still eventually arrive at the same or a similar conclusion. Please do what you can to find the answers for yourself. But if you would like a little help, or outright answers in many cases, this video is for that purpose. Here, we will be telling you what is probably the most conclusive lesson from Untried. Then we will work backward from that, trying to explain many of the details that led up to the same or a similar conclusion from those many different directions. Please stop here to consider whether you have made enough effort on your own to be ready now for some help from us. The overall lesson of Untried is right there in the title of the channel, on which all of the 7 reels have been released. It is that virtually all of the great ideals and truths within the realm of human consciousness have been almost universally preached, but not practiced, taught, but not tried. And this applies most consistently and most universally to some recorded teachings that have arguably been abused and mistreated more than any other teachings in human history. In each of the videos, a small treasure chest appears with the word Turton on it. Some have Googled Turton to discover that it is the Tibetan name for a person who reveals spiritual treasures only when the world is ready to receive them. But few have worked out the meaning of the chest itself. A subtle clue comes in the first video, where someone in the crowd says, G.K. At another point, in video number 6, The Purge, someone whispers Ruined Ted several times, followed by the word ideal, and tells people to Google it. But first, you need to rearrange the letters from Ruined Ted to get Untried. A search for ideal Untried will give you both the meaning of the chest and the overriding message of the Untried series. A worldwide graffiti campaign with the message "The Source is the Solution" was run in conjunction with the Untried series. In the 4th video, The Threat, students look for a solution to the impending collapse that has faced every empire throughout history. The world seeks greatness through impressive buildings, through religion, through legislation, and ultimately through military force. Patriotism has been called the vicious virtue because of how it is used to justify war. The words appear in Latin above the entrance to Archy Grammar School in video number 4. The name Archy itself comes from a Latin word for rulers, as in the word anarchy, meaning without rulers. One rebellious Archy student paints graffiti in the background, suggesting a radically different response to the corruption that is overtaking the world. He asks people to Google his message. Such a search leads to a helpful AI message, as well as a panel of 144 different buttons, which give many clues to the solution, and many photos of mysterious source graffiti from around the world. The extent of the graffiti displayed suggests that there are others from many different countries who support the Untried message of this video series. Perhaps people who have tried the Untried ideals that are being promoted here as the answer to the deeply flawed lies of the 21st century. Other links take viewers to photos of elaborate murals painted on the walls of simple houses in the Philippines. We see the disappointing failure of religion illustrated in one such mural. That is contrasted with tiny efforts by one small child to break down the walls that divide people so ruthlessly in yet another mural. A Bobby is portrayed in a mural from the first video, but it is only in the final video that we discover his name and see that he had been using religion to manipulate the masses. Yet another video shows the superiority of natural creation over all of our efforts to achieve immortality through temporal constructions. The Untried series nears its end in the 6th video in a mural called Out of Time. In the final video, we get a glimpse of a hippie bus full of forest creatures on their way to a better life, as depicted by the characters in that video. Something in the wiring of the human brain causes us to ask a question which no other animal on Earth seems capable of asking. Young children often frustrate older members of their families when they discover this question, and then they start to ask it incessantly. Over time, we tend to lose that innate curiosity and to replace it with the deceptive lie that we already know all the answers. Our inflated egos delude us into thinking that we know more than the tiny crumbs of true wisdom that even the best of us have managed to glean from our combined experience and environment. This inflated ego about our intelligence is illustrated in the second video, where students rave about how smart they are, about elephants in this case, while they let a real live elephant die of thirst right before their eyes. The elephant is there for them to take care of, but they totally miss the point. Their intelligence is fake, deluded, artificial in a world where people do not even have enough intelligence to stop destroying the only home we will ever have. Mrs. Quilty, who gave the class the elephant in the first place, looks on in sorrow while they figuratively overlook the elephant of their own existence, or the hidden message from the source, if you like, that is right there in the room with them. The elephant symbol later appears in the cemetery video to represent 4 other pointers to the solution that have been left there by Mrs. Quilty. 3 of them are almost identical, and a 4th one is similar. These are illustrated as 4 books in the elephant video, with 3 of them described in an anagram in the final video. The 2 symbols, elephants and books, combine in the 7th video as positively changed Archy Kids come together for a final showdown against the evils of the world. In the second video, the elephant also illustrates mankind's lack of care for the wonderful garden in which we live. That indifference, combined with religious bigotry, depicts the utter failure of both science and religion to solve the world's problems. It is in this video that Bobby murders another student with a book that has an acrostic spelled B-I-B-L-E on the back cover, giving a fuller picture of why Bobby was so hated in the first video. It was his own pride and bigotry that led to his demise. A book designed to explain the origin of life was used only to destroy life. If we would ask the overlooked question with such a hunger for truth as has motivated some of the great philosophers throughout history, we might find, as many of them did, a growing conviction that the source is where the answer to that nagging question lies. Even before she has appeared, viewers are alerted to watch for the identity of Mrs. Quilty. By the end of the series, she is seen much more clearly as being the source of all great ideals. Those ideals may best be summed up with the word love. Mrs. Quilty's love can be seen in little positive influences, like her attempt to outlaw dogmas on campus at Archy Grammar School. But in the end, she finds the situation intolerable, and she leaves. The school itself assumes that it has forced Mrs. Quilty to leave, but her expulsion is really a graduation because it opens the door to a whole new world with a much higher calling. Like a mother bird pushing her babies out of the nest, she sets up a situation where her students are going to be forced to make some hard decisions too. There are other times when Mrs. Quilty's love may seem unloving at first glance, such as her apparent indifference to the death of Bobby in the first video, and her apparent approval of the evil in those responsible for his downfall. Mrs. Quilty's love, if we're to call it that, includes the freedom for evil to exist, and even her right to use evil forces to discipline lesser evils in those whom she loves. There is an interplay between mercy and judgment, which challenges all of our efforts to package up goodness in any one group or individual. All of this culminates in a world where evil runs rampant above ground, while people of conscience are forced underground. Yet, the paradox is that in this tiny band of idealists, paradise, or at least a glimmer of hope for a much bigger paradise, can be found. The coming great trouble is seen in the final video as the ultimate adventure, when the world's true idealists will be miraculously brought together to try the untried in the face of mankind's most inhumane atrocities. Starting from the source and looking toward the culmination of all things, the human mind just naturally looks for clues as to some purpose or goal in it all. And that purpose may be found best in anything that can be used to link the source with knowledge of where all of this is heading. Was there something in our past which pointed to and/or explained how it's all going to end? Is there a thread that runs through all of human history? And how close are we now to the end of that story? This is where we have introduced ancient documents that appear to be predicting progressive world empires, symbolized by various animals. All of these are eventually replaced by a kingdom that is not man-made, because it comes from the source itself. This coming utopia, however, is immediately preceded by a world government that is unlike any previous world government, in that it has a large body of rulers who work together in support of an evil dragon and another creature that is described as a leopard with the feet of a bear. These two malevolent forces, the dragon and the leopard with the feet of a bear, need to subdue 3 other kings in order to gain the full support of 10 different rulers. The 3 kings that must be subdued are represented by a lion, by eagle's wings that have grown out of the lion, and by a rooster that is really just a privileged appendage of the leopard. The rooster ends up working in conjunction with the dragon and the bear, despite fundamental opposition to what they stand for. The eagle's wings, according to the most ancient prophecies, are plucked at some point, causing the lion to lose its special role in this final world government and to stand on its feet like a man. Later prophecies leave the eagle out altogether, as though it has been destroyed before all of the worst suffering begins to happen. All of these creatures and their relations to one another have an uncanny resemblance to the United Nations Security Council, with its 5 permanent members: China, Russia, the US, England, and France at the moment, and 10 rotating members from about 200 other countries. If the 3 nominally Christian nations, which are represented by an eagle, a lion, and a rooster, could be subdued, then the bear and the dragon would have unbridled freedom to impose their will on the rest of the world. And all it would take for the 3 of them to become powerless would be the destruction of America, plucking the eagle wings. France and England would be lucky to maintain even a rotating presence on the Security Council, thus losing the veto power that they now possess on the Council over Russia and China. France, by the way, is the unofficial center of a worldwide movement against fringe religious groups, and England is the birthplace of the King James Bible. Together, they seem to represent what would barely remain of institutional Christianity if America were to be destroyed. One of these 2 beasts, the bear, receives a deadly wound, which is miraculously healed, and it becomes an excuse for the world to put their trust in these 2 final world leaders. The same documents that use these animal analogies go on to predict greater disasters, universal persecution of idealists, and a new economy where people do all of their buying and selling through an implant in the hand or forehead. The details are still not totally clear, but the prophecies seem to predict martyrdom for love in the face of horrific political control and opposition. The solution can only be found in something that transcends life itself. The restrictions on how people must survive in this future dystopia more or less force idealists to adopt a lifestyle which has rarely ever been tried since the Babylonians invented money. Suddenly, survival without money becomes the only lifestyle available for true people of conscience in a corrupt world. The first video in the Untried series was released on Good Friday 2025. The last one was released on the eve of All Saints' Day, sometimes called Hallowed Eve or Halloween, in the same year. While popular tradition has turned October 31st into a celebration of witches and goblins, it started as a memorial to all people who have truly followed their conscience throughout history. A few weeks before All Saints' Day, on October 4th, there is a feast day to celebrate one of the most famous people to have ever tried to live the untried life that this series of videos is all about. But there are other important dates as well. In the cemetery video, we see one grave with the date January 25th on it, which is a powerful clue to the identity of the person whose grave it represents. Someone who is widely traveled and who has a lot of pens in his pocket. Just don't assume that all dates are really dates. They may be abbreviations for references in certain ancient manuscripts. It may take a little imagination to make the transition, however, such as understanding that the name Jan in Scandinavian countries is masculine and is pronounced Jan. Add colons and hyphens to this and other inscriptions there, and it can take you straight to the answer for several ghosts in the cemetery video. One reference that would help to identify the boxer from the third grave is Matt 16:15-18. When you know what to be looking for, Luke Skywalker and Matt Damon go well with the numbers on the blackboard in the second video. And if you work out this little math puzzle, you get roughly 144,000, a number associated with people who have a special relationship to a lamb. A final date appears on the discarded billboard that is used as a door in the underground hideout. What happened on July 16th, 1228, contrasts dramatically with what happened on July 16th, 1945. There are numerous coded messages throughout the videos, but most of them have been decoded, at least in part, through the comments, which appear under each of the videos. Some codes may be simple anagrams in a line-by-line or word-by-word format. For example, electing line could be rearranged to form intelligence. Others may be solved by jumping ahead or back one or more letters in the alphabet from the letters that appear in the cryptogram. For example, this becomes read my mind by reading my lips, just by replacing each letter in the cryptogram with the one that comes before it in the alphabet. The hardest cryptograms are usually ones where alternate letters are randomly assigned to all letters of the alphabet. You have to look for other clues in solving them, usually solving vowels first. As an example, this type of cryptogram appeared in the cemetery video, spread over 2 tombstones. It's a real toughie. The biggest clue to solving this one was probably the words to the song that were shown on the screen while the cryptogram was visible.
You gotta get the lesson. It pays to pay attention to what the voices say.
Hidden in the coded message are the obvious words Noah and ignore. The world ignored Noah, but the song is saying just the opposite. Listen. So, what if the code word ignore is really listen? If you substitute the letters for listen, you get the middle word is almost certainly one of these. The first word is almost certainly one of these. If you get the missing 2 letters in each of those 2 words, they should be all you need to solve the rest of the sentence. Another cryptic message appears on the sidewalk at the beginning of the 5th video, just before Mrs. Quilty is fired. Even in its coded format, the cryptogram contains key words that suggest leaving, the UN and AI, and possibly facing jail or the axe, the guillotine, as a result. The key to solving that cryptogram is the apostrophe in this word. The only words that fit with the apostrophe would be he's, he'd, we'd, or it's. Depending on which word you choose, the second word would have to start with this, or this, or this. Only it's seems reasonable, and only to seems reasonable for the third word. Can you guess the second word? If you can, you will have enough letters to spell out much of the rest of the message. Other cryptic messages use Morse code, if you can spot the dots and dashes when they appear on the screen. Finally, there is one tiny clue where musical notes spell out the consequences of not listening. While the Archy Kids all start out as clones in terms of their uniforms and facial features, slight changes in some of the kids represent a transformation that little by little leads to the diversity that turns up at the underground hideout in the final video. For some, however, the transformation results in all white clothing as a symbol of martyrdom. Two special kids take on a special role. The actions of these two seem punctuated by strange occurrences involving fire, water, and plagues. With the help of a mysterious lamb, which others have rejected, the pair lead the good Archy Kids to an amazing place of refuge. But far from being a holiday, the people in that place are actively engaged in spreading their message through further cryptic messages, with the knowledge that some of them will almost certainly die for what they believe. Other clues in this video series are explained by people who have written comments on each of the videos. Take the time to read through the comments, perhaps posting some of your own. We look forward to reading your thoughts. Please like our videos if you have enjoyed them so that YouTube will show them to more people, even if the YouTube algorithms can't work out for themselves what it is that we have been saying here. Bye for now from the Untried team.